Right. It was a great day to be a Red Raider. Some exciting news on National Signing Day, and there's a good chance that we're not finished. But I'll go through the guys that we signed. And you could see there's a couple positions that we're heavy with. We always wanted to do a great job of recruiting offensive linemen at the high school level. And so I think that we did a really good job. It was also necessary just from the offensive linemen. We want to stay in the state of Texas, but whenever you're recruiting big people, whether D-line or O-line, you a lot of times have to nationally recruit. And so our guys are from different parts of the United States. You start off with Ren Brown. They got beat in the state championship. He's a two-way player. I'm really excited about him. Ren can play guard or tackle. He's played 8-man football, so whenever he gets on campus, it'll be the first time he's played 11-man football, and he'll adapt really well. Excited about this next guy, local guy. Y'all know him, cover him. He had an absolutely incredible year this year for Lubbock Cooper. What we love about him is we do think he can play inside or outside receiver. He's also got return ability. I think one of his first touchdowns this year against Lovejoy was a kickoff return. So he's really special, tough guy. Other thing I love about him is he came to our camp and earned the scholarship in front of us, working his tail off, all the stuff that we saw. I think it was a 4.43 on mine and Blanchard's watch, so can really run. Tristan Gentry has been committed to us for a while. He actually also earned his scholarship at camp. He ran a 4.35 on our watch. Great story about him. He's from Stephenville, where he played football with Coy Aiken. And at camp, whenever we decided we were going to offer him, Coy actually offered him the scholarship. And I thought that was cool that teammates could do that. And he was like, really? And so he's been committed to us for a long time. They're still in the playoffs and excited to watch them. He's got a chance to win a state championship. I don't know the exact stat line last week, but he had over 300 yards receiving. And so, he's a guy that, again, inside, outside guy, probably more of a slot for us. Big E, he is a large human being. Elias I'm really excited because whenever you look at him, he's 6'6", 310 pounds, and you're like, there's no way that he's 310 pounds because he has no fat. I mean, he is a large human. He's very explosive. He threw the shot last year over 60 feet, won the state championship then, in South Dakota, and has a chance and should win it again. But also just an incredible person. Brock, he's coming from the DFW area. At 215 pounds this year at the district track meet, he ran a 10.7. So he's like a lot of our linebackers. We want guys that can run, and he's definitely a guy that can run, is very physical, and excited, that he's a part of this. We were not going to take a linebacker that didn't fit our system as far as the speed and everything, and he definitely did. D'Angelo, the Italian Stallion. I am not going to try to pronounce his last name. There's no way that I will get it right. I'll butcher it. He came on late. He actually took his visit this last weekend whenever we played West Virginia. He and his mom, just an incredible person. Whenever you watch his film, he's very physical. He's very athletic, and gave us an opportunity to add to that offensive line group. Preston Harrison, he's from Mineral Wells. So you're going to see a lot of this, especially like Ren Brown plays both ways. Harrison plays both ways. He's played corner that big. He's played defensive end. He's played slot receiver, outside receiver, tight end. We like him at tight end, very versatile. Michael Hollywood Henderson, when we watched him and met with him, we thought a lot of Rabbit. Whenever we did high football IQ, he's played running back and safety. He's a two-way player. At the 5A level in the state of Texas, it's hard to do as productive he is. But we really look at him as a safety, and he reminds us a lot of Rabbit. Bryson Jones, he's going to remind you body type and the way he runs is Caleb Douglas. He's a long receiver. They're still in the playoffs. They got a huge game this weekend against Highland Park. That's going to be a great game to watch. But he's a guy that can really stretch the field and really run. I got to watch him live a couple weeks ago and was really excited. Lloyd Jones, QB1 in this class, has won a state. I think they've won the state championship in basketball the last 2 years. They won the 7-on-7 tournament in state this year, and they were probably on the verge. He got hurt a couple weeks ago, or they would probably be favorite to win the state championship this year in football. But a guy that came to camp, he's long, he's going to be a big kid. He's 6'4". You look that he can fill out to 225, 230 pounds and can do both. He's a dual threat guy, and he's a leader. He's been a real leader for this class. I made the joke this morning, Deontay Lindsay saved Coach Martin's job. We don't have a lot of Oklahoma guys. We're recruiting Oklahoma harder. But you think about Rabbit, was from Oklahoma. Pat Curley was a good player for us from Oklahoma. Isaac Smith. So they play really, really good football. It's almost an extension of Texas whenever we go up there to recruit. He is a long corner. He plays wide receiver and DB, but we were recruiting him as a corner. The next one, Garin, another Midwest offensive lineman. I got to watch him play. Clay and I got to watch him play live a month ago. He started both ways, never came off the field. So he started at tackle and started at defensive end. We look at him as a tackle, big body, that's going to be really good for us. Braylon McDonald, another two-way player for Lancaster, and that's at the 6A level. So he's pretty special. He's playing both ways at that size. We look at him as a safety, possible corner, but a safety. Just give you an idea, he broke my heart, but at least he was our guy because he knocked Cedar Hill out of the playoffs in a double overtime game where he had the interception that ended the game. And he's a guy that's really physical and has got really good ball skills. Patrick is coming from one of the greatest high schools in the country in Katy, Texas. He was a captain at Katy. And if you play offensive line at Katy, you love football. Have a really high football IQ coming from Katy, the style that they play, how important football is. And so he plays tackle for Katy. He's a mid-year. We will move him to center. We recruited him from the get-go at center. He knows that. So as soon as he gets on campus, he will start snapping during our winter football school. Sean Rambo Robinson, late addition. We were able to get him committed. He was committed at another school. We were able to flip him. He plays both ways. I mean, he has interceptions this year. He has quarterback sacks, tackles for loss. He's got 100-yard rushing, playing running back, receiving, tight end. We look at him as an outside receiver, tight end. Huge hands, very physical. I told him because he came on his visit in the West Virginia game. Whenever he shook my hand, I thought he was trying to break my hand or intimidate me, but has a huge smile on his face and whenever he's doing it. Mr. Singleton, it was a huge addition. We've had him for a long time, but he is a guy that can cancel gaps in the defensive line. And we did not take a defensive lineman last year in that class. We did get a late addition walk-on that had scholarship offers at other places and with Keyshawn, and we feel great about him. That at some point he's going to be on scholarship. But Dylan was really big because we needed a guy. I mean, he's 6'4", he's 300 pounds, plays basketball and football, and is going to be huge for us. And then last but not least, another guy that everybody's covered in here for a long time. I would really like, and I'll probably just get Matt to do it or somebody, one of our guys, James Blanchard, to research anybody's high school career in the last 3 years that have been more productive than Leighton Stone, especially in the amount of games that he's played in. Whenever you're talking about not playing in 15 and 16 games a year, but he's over 4,000 yards receiving. I think he's like 229 catches, 66 touchdowns. I could be totally off on some of these numbers, but what a guy that, man, I know he bleeds red and black. This is his dream school. It was pretty awesome whenever he did commit. It was in the old FTF. His dad he came in and we sit down and talked, and it was a pretty cool moment because, they didn't get too emotional. Nobody shed tears or anything, but it was really a cool moment because I think it was both a dream for them. I always joke with Coach Stone that he definitely got his athletic ability from his mom. She was a great athlete. Coach Stone tells us that he's a great athlete. I think he had one kick that might have won a national championship, but, other than that, what did he really do? No, I'm just kidding. But Leighton will be here mid-year, and the guys that are mid-year, as you know, have a better chance to play early, but Leighton is really going to be special and already has such a great connection, him being local, with Coy Aiken. He's got a great connection with Will Hammond. I actually think Will might have gone to his signing ceremony today, which is really cool. They're already become really close. And so excited about this group. Like I said, there's a chance possibly to add one late today. If not tomorrow, we're still hard at it. A young man that's committed somewhere else that hasn't signed yet. And so we're going to see if we can't get him. And that'll be a really good class. When you look at our class, once it's finally finished, you're going to see us ranked. And whenever you look at the rankings, I was at a couple of places yesterday talking to some of our donors, look at the composite average. I think right now with the people that are signed, we're number 3 in the Big 12 when you look at composite average, whenever you're talking about 247, because we didn't sign 29 guys or we didn't sign 39 guys like some of the other people, which is great. Our mindset was we've signed 2 really large classes the last 2 years. Our numbers, whenever you're talking about what we plan to do in the portal and then what we did with this high school class, put us exactly where we needed to be, especially if you say if we're going to take 10 portal guys, and that means it puts you as 27 in this class. And so that's basically what we've done the last couple of years. But whenever you look at it, I think, and I don't know who's all signed and when it changes and everything like that, but I think it might be TCU. And when it's all said and done, TCU and Colorado would be the 2 that may have a higher composite average than we do whenever you're looking at some of that stuff. So proud of that. Again, a really, really strong class, and it met a lot of our needs in skill and depth in certain positions. So talked about them. I'll open up for questions. Oh, we also signed a defensive coordinator. I know y'all saw that. And so I know we'll ask about that, but that's one thing that's really easy to find. He's been at Army, Tulane, Troy, Houston. His numbers are absolutely incredible. The players are really fired up. I got to tell them this morning before it was released. And when I told them, and I'll tell y'all, it's like just look at his numbers of where when he came in, what they were the year before he came in. And it's not just changing. It's a dramatic. I mean, it's going from the hundreds to the 20s or, from the and that's something that was really important with us of what he can do for us. And he's fired up. He'll be on campus on Monday, and he and Blanchard have already been talking a lot about people that are already in the portal and then, projecting what we need. And so really excited about Coach Wood. All right. Questions?
Coach, I'll just keep you right on that vein. I was curious about Coach Wood's scheme because it seems like it's more of a 3-4.
Yeah.
And how does that change the personnel needs on the defense? Because it seems like you need some rangy outside linebacker types that can, get after the passer as well.
Well, it's going to be, whenever we looked at that, because we are multiple, and when you look at him, it is a 3-4 like alignment-wise, but you're still that outside linebacker is more of a defensive end. He drops him some, but he's just as much. So it really fits in when we were in our odd stuff. It really fits to what we do. When we were talking to different people, that was important because, I wanted to make sure that the guys like Eddie Smith, who is right now 275 pounds, and Charles Anderson, who's 270 pounds, and they're both 6'5" and 6'5.5", that when you looked at it, it was either going to be a 3-4 to where they're playing a 4 technique or a 5 technique to that field, and it fits at what they were already doing, or we were going to be more of a 4 down front to where it kept them at the defensive end, and so they possibly at some point in their career could kick inside just because they are so large. But right now I feel really good about them playing that. So I think whenever we really looked at it, kind of fits because he's still a 5 DB system. That's what we are, and the numbers that we have in that, secondary, it'll be a good fit.
And I'm curious about your thoughts on just the overall of this wide receiver class. Seems like it's, in my opinion, the strength of this class with really good ball skills and physical dudes who can go get it. How do you view that room going forward? Because you've signed quite a few in the last few years.
Yeah, I agree. Whenever you look at the guys, and it's not just their athletic ability, their length, it's their production. I mean, whenever you look at all of them, I mean, you could any Friday night, which I usually do, when the movie's going on, I'm usually surfing high school, at whatever the app is to look at the scores, and then I still have my high school game time from Dallas-Fort Worth. So if they're playing a Dallas-Fort Worth team, you could look it up really quick. And our guys were 100 yards in a game, 150 yards, 200 yards in a game, 4 touchdowns, 300 yards in a game. So just the production, also their ball skills, they're I think, where you really look at this class and we look up 2, 3, 4 years from now, the offensive line and the receivers that we signed in this class are really going to jump out.
Coach, you mentioned Blanchard earlier. I'm curious, when y'all started here a couple of years ago, it was kind of a unique approach in terms of the NFL style. Now you've had a couple of cycles, couple of seasons. How do you feel like it's worked out in terms of getting the talent on the field, and what have y'all tweaked?
I think it's worked well. And I know this guy's a transfer, but Baylor Cup was acted yesterday. I mean, if you take the guys, and these are not guys that we recruited. Obviously, these are guys that, well, if they're transfers, we recruited them, but we have developed. I think we have more guys off of the last 2 years that are on NFL teams than any of the current years before us, of any of the coaches. And so I think that we're trending in a great direction. I think we'll do it again with the guys, with a Josh Kelly, with a Caleb Douglas, with a Taj Brooks, guys like that, Mason Tharp, Jalen Conyers that will be drafted and be in camps. And then our young guys you're starting to see, I thought Mo Horn, the last 2 games have probably played his best game as far as especially his aggression. Darcel McBath started working a lot more with the corners the last few weeks. And so I thought that it was translating. And I think, as you see, again, we're going to go in the transfer portals for some needs. But I think I've talked to a lot of my young linemen. And give you an example, I was talking to Dylan Shaw and Danny Seal, and I said, as bad as y'all want to play right now, and you're getting closer and closer, this next year is the year that the light is about to really come on. That even though you still look like babies in the face, you're going to start shaving pretty soon, and and you're 315 or 320 pounds instead of 280 pounds. And we had practice this morning with our young guys, and it's fun to watch their development. And so I think with our guys, going back to what you asked with Blanchard, you're fixing to see more and more of those guys really productive and really playing.
And then in terms of the offensive coordinator search, do you have a timetable in terms of when to announce, and maybe a general style that you're looking for? Yeah,
I'm hoping by Friday, but I think it could be even earlier than that. We will. I wouldn't say 100% like it would be coming out of Coach Leach's tree from the standpoint of air raid or something like that, but it is going to be something like that as far as tempo. The guys that we've talked to are very similar when you're talking about 11 personnel. Some of these guys maybe not as much 12 personnel, but they also didn't have the tight ends that we've had. And then some are a little bit more 10 personnel spread. But as far as for us, we want to keep that, like who we are, tempo, and being aggressive. And so I'm excited. I'll tell you, man, this job is extremely attractive. The amount of people, the different people I've talked to that, are the amount of texts or amount of people they've sent to try to get in on these jobs, but also, some guys are turning down jobs just to get the opportunity to talk about this job. And so I feel, but going back to when, it could be as early as tomorrow, but I probably would say Friday. We wanted definitely, that was a big deal this week. We definitely wanted to have our two coordinators, which I didn't know Zach 100%. I knew he was interviewing and everything like that. But we want to have it to where when that portal opens up, they're talking to their OC and DC. Sean and Don.
Coach, with all the changes that are going on in college football, is the traditional high school recruiting model a viable way of building a program, or is churning the roster and finding transfers a better way? And how many high school players are losing the opportunities to play the game they love because of it?
I'll start with that last one. I definitely think that there's guys that are losing the ability to play at the level or be recruited at the level that they were going to be recruited at, or possibly recruited at. I still think the model of because whenever I look at our guys, and Daniel Seal and Dylan Shaw and Nick Fattig in that class, Caden Carr, when you look at Ponton and you look at Holton and you look at Ellis Davis, I mean, whenever you got those guys and they can stick with us and build and grow, then all of a sudden, whenever they are bigger, faster, and stronger and grown as offensive linemen, you're not going to have to go in the portal like that. Like when you look up and Caleb Rogers is the only guy that you have left whenever you walked in 3 years ago because of this style of recruiting, then you're going to have to go in the portal to find guys, right? I think that you have to find a good balance. If we hadn't signed so many high school kids the last 2 years, we would have signed more high school kids this year. I think you got to find what we're trying to do is just progressively get better. But I think if I have a guy that's in my program that we hit on that's here for 3 to 4 to 5 years, he's going to be better than somebody that comes in. He's been here for 1 year, and we're trying to develop that culture.
That being said, with roster limitations coming up, what disadvantages do high school players face when they're fighting for spots against players in the transfer portal, junior college, and current players?
Well, it's just not high school players. It's players right now on my current roster. Like, don't. The one thing, I said this yesterday, don't look up and think that somebody's transferring because they're transferring to go find somewhere else. Like I've got a roster limit. Right now I have 123 guys. We signed 17 guys. Y'all saw how many guys walked the other day. So whenever you add all that stuff together, I'm going to have to cut some players. So whenever you start looking at that, some guys might be getting in because they're like, look, I'd rather get in now and not wait till April 16th, and I might have a spot or I might not have a spot. So some of that's happening. And then the high school players, it's the same way. There's limited spots but you still saw, if you look, I say that, and you still have schools that are signing 30 and 29 and 27. And so it's going to be interesting. And what it might be even more interesting is how many of these mid-years now, because you can transfer at any time without penalty, how many of these mid-year freshmen get in the portal on April 16th, which is crazy in and of itself. The one thing that I've told a lot of our guys that possibly are on the bubble of like, Coach, do I come back? What we're about to see on December 9th, we've never seen before. And what I mean by that is like, we've seen the portal go crazy because of the amount of money that is in this now. The portal is going to go absolutely crazy. And so let's say this was the portal and you had all these kids a year ago. Well, now it's going to be like this. But the problem is all these guys right here, they've played college football and have been really, really productive. So those guys that were getting lost in the portal, maybe they're going to be lost for good, because we're looking at guys that have played. Everybody else in the country, like if you're going after a portal guy, you're looking for guys that have played. And so the amount of talent, because of the money that's going to be in the portal, we haven't, honestly, it's going to be just like this year in college football. We haven't seen anything like it. And so it's scary. I hope they listen to me a little bit, and I hope they listen to their parents if they're directing them that way, because the other part is that's sad is this is great money. It's awesome. I'm behind it 100%, but I also believe in a college education. There's going to be some guys that are a semester away from graduating, and they better hope they go somewhere that's going to pay for that next semester, that next year, because all the credits are not going to transfer and they're going to put themselves behind. That's why I love Loic so much, man. He's got a Texas Tech degree and he played somewhere else, because he listened and he had 13 hours to graduate. He found a place to go and he graduated from college, and had a good year. And I'm happy for him. But at the end of the year, at the end of the day, maybe not when you're my age, when you're a little bit younger than me, that college education is going to make a difference, and so it's still student athletes. It's just they're now getting paid a whole lot of money.
Well, speaking of that, with college being a sort of a minor leagues for the NFL and NIL and revenue sharing, do you think litigation could occur if a player leaves early for the NFL and with college eligibility left, gets cut, and wants to come back to school to get that education?
As far as like us paying for it, or playing again, like once they declare, they'll be out of it. They won't be able to come back. But as far as them coming back and paying for their school, that happens now. Guys that go to college and schools come back and pay for it, finish their degree. But it's going to be interesting. I'm going to tell you, I've been in this for 8 years, and if you just think about my first signing class, I wasn't the head coach, but that was in February, and there was only one signing date. And now, 8 years later, it doesn't even look like what it looked like whenever I first got in it.
Don and Collier.
Joey, back on your staff for a moment. With new OC and new DC, besides replacing the Marcel Yates position, to what extent will they have latitude to bring in any other assistants, making other changes that they want?
Yeah, we talked the DC with Shill. I've talked to him. We're going through because anytime, even hiring the first staff, whenever I was talking to the DC and the OC, it was like, who do you have to be successful? Usually somebody has at least one guy, and then I think there's definitely, we have some really good coaches on the staff, and I think he wants to evaluate. The great thing is we're in a bowl. So not only is he going to get to evaluate the staff, but he's going to get to evaluate the players. We sent him an email this morning with all their faces and our new signees and their phone numbers, and I know he's already contacted a lot of them. And then whenever he gets here on Monday, we'll be pretty close to getting our bowl practice. We'll know who we're playing. Just to give y'all an idea, Juice Johnson, our wide receivers coach, is going to call the offense, and CJIU is going to call the defense. And so he's going to get a chance to evaluate those guys. On the defense, the guys that are left, everybody's going to have an opportunity, and then we'll just see offensively exactly who we get and what he needs to bring in. But I'm expecting to add at least one coach, if not two coaches, on the defensive side of the ball, and for sure add one coach. It'll be still trying to figure out what that coach is going to be, because at the end of the day, Kitley's still trying to figure out exactly, what he's going to do with his staff. And I'm trying to help him, and not that he needs my help, but we're trying to work through, because there are some of our young coaches that are, maybe assistant position coaches or QCs that are going to have an opportunity to go with him. And so then that'll open up some spots on our staff.
What is Micah Hudson's situation? What do you expect to happen there?
Transfer portal opens December 9th, and so we'll see. It's funny, everybody puts a lot of stuff out, and there's going to be people that said they were in the portal that were never actually in the portal, and there's going to be some that get in the portal. And if they're any of our guys, then I'm going to help them every step of the way if they want my help, if they need my help. And if not, they'll be Red Raiders. So ask me that question December 9th for sure, that if he's here or not.
Do you want him to continue with your
I'd
program?
love to,
Is there a relationship?
Yeah.
issue
Yeah. I
there?
sent him a text today, responded to the text, and so it's one of those deals of I recruit these guys, and I want them here. And then there's some that have moved on, and they felt like there were better situations and everything like that. And there's some that we've brought in that were much better. I don't think anybody would disagree. We'll stay with the wide receiver, but we lost some wide receivers that were really good, that were productive, and we replaced them with a lot more production and a better football player, and Josh Kelly and Caleb Douglas. One played slot, one played outside receiver. You could compare year 1 and year 2 with the slot and outside receiver, and Josh Kelly and Caleb Douglas are better football players than who are playing in those spots. Y'all can figure that out. Y'all are really smart.
I was also curious on all the linemen that you signed from the upper Midwest.
Yeah.
A whole group of guys from way outside this region.
Yeah.
Did you have any connection there, or is that a coincidence that you got guys from Nebraska and Dakota and Michigan?
Yeah. It's more of a coincidence, but I'll never forget, and I know I bring a lot. I talk a lot about Matt Rule because I think in my short time of my 3 years with Matt Rule, I learned more in those 3 years than at any other point. And the thing that he always used to talk about, he loved coaching in the state of Texas because that's what I told Kitley too. I told Kitley, he asked me about the job, and I said, anytime you can win your conference just recruiting your state, that's a good job. So being able to recruit the state of Texas, but the positions that I think you have to make sure that you're open to leaving the state is the quarterback position. We have great quarterbacks in this state, but sometimes a class is not as deep. And then big people, O linemen and D linemen. Anytime you're talking about that, and there's maybe classes you got to be able to open up and go see. And Blanchard, just an example of going to South Dakota and Nebraska. Clay McGuire and Zach Kitley got stuck in Denver, couldn't fly out of Denver because they were flying to South Dakota. So they got in a car and they drove from Denver to South Dakota to go see Big E. And they got on the phone with me and he said, Coach, we got to get this kid. He is huge. We're not seeing guys like this. And then same way, they didn't get stuck on a plane, but whenever they went to Nebraska. And so we have got to keep getting better up front. That's one reason we play really close games is because we're not as good up front as what we need to be. And so we're trying to go out of the state and out of this area to get some.
Back on quarterback for a moment. You said last week that you did not plan to add a quarterback. Now Jake is gone. Does that change that, or what number of quarterbacks do you want on the roster, especially going down to 105?
Yeah, I would like 4. And with Jake leaving, we're kind of on the bubble. We'll look to see if there's one that makes sense, that maybe you could almost count as a 24, 25 type guy to look at. We don't want an older quarterback unless he's okay with being comfortable of being a backup to a backup. We feel great about our 1 and 2. And totally understand whenever you're on a team with Baron Morton and Will Hammond, that's going to happen. They're both really, really good football players.
Thanks for Collier.
You mentioned.
I got you, Nate.
Yeah, we'll give it to Nathan afterwards. You mentioned Darcel. Is there any potential of him moving into that role as secondary coach?
There is. I'm hoping to actually talk to Sheila Day to talk to him about that. He knows the guys that I really want him to look at. I don't see, honestly, guys, I do not see a Texas Tech staff that doesn't have CJIU on it. I don't see it. Like that guy, he's had draft picks the last couple years. That room's injured, and he finds a way to still hit the quarterback at times, not as much as what we want. He has young guys that throughout the year keep growing. Everybody goes, where did Terrell Tillman come from? Of late, it's just that guy. He just works his tail off. So for example, with him, I don't see a staff that doesn't have that guy on our staff, and he loves it here at Texas Tech. And his family loves it here. And then I really want him to take a look at Darcel. He's been great for us in the role that he's played this year. And then I asked him to do more of late. Coach Perry's asked him to do more of late in the special teams room, and he's done a great job. So it'd be great to bring him home. I know he's here, but to keep him here because he's a really good Red Raider.
Last year, you got to obviously pump up the class and everything. I understand. Do you learn anything from last year's signing day? Because that day, it was like it'd be hard for me to not put Micah Hudson on the field all the time.
Yeah. The things that I wished whenever you go back, because I was actually talking to Blanchard earlier about some positions like adding this, or maybe if Zach takes this support staff guy, I might look at that role totally different. Maybe I move responsibilities to different people, always trying to grow, like continually trying to grow to get better. And I still believe this. I still believe that he's going to be a great player, and I'm hoping it's for us. But if it's from somewhere else, but you're also talking about a freshman, and so, what I tried to do as it was trending, maybe not spotlight him so much on our social media and stuff like that until he really, because the tough thing with him, and man, I love him, man, but like the injury affected him to where going through camp, of like how he was progressing and getting caught up. And then he really got to where like we were, okay, he's got his legs underneath him. Here we go. And then he gets hurt again, and then there's little things. We're a play away from him. He's wide open. And if we hit him in the end zone, he catches the game winner against TCU. Does he, does everybody feel the same and everything like that, but at the end of the day, I obviously didn't do a good job as what this guy did, because he's got a chance to play in the playoffs. The guy at Indiana, where he brought half of his team with him, who I think lost one game the year before that, but he brought like 40-something people or 30-something people from the transfer from his old school. He talked about production over potential. That's another thing. And it wasn't learned, but that's part of it too. Got a 1,000-yard receiver. That's production over potential. CD, y'all see what he did and what he is becoming. That's production over potential. And so I got to stick with that. You got to, continue to do that. I do wish whenever you go back, if you could be I Dream a Genie and blink. If y'all older people remember that, you younger people do not remember that sitcom, that he comes in healthy, that, he hadn't been playing high school football with that kind of knee injury and it had already been done, and he would have been back quicker and stuff like that. I think that would have changed some stuff.
And one more, sorry. I realize the question I just asked, but of this group, not somebody that necessarily is going to start, but is there a guy in this group that, you envision is ahead of the rest of the class?
Well, that's a great question. And why I say that, for example, I always lean to the mid-years. So if you look, two guys that were really productive for us, they're about to be true juniors. So they played as freshmen, and that's Brennan Jordan, BJ, and that's Chapman Lewis. So they were mid-years. I truly believe that if Dylan Spencer doesn't tear his ACL on the first day of practice, that he would have been another one that would have been growing, because he played some as a freshman. The guys that are mid-years that are going to have a chance for a lot of reasons, like Leighton Stone. I could see Leighton definitely being in the mix. You really want to try to redshirt them, but if they're ready to go, I think he's somebody that could do that. Michael Deaver. So your receivers are kind of those guys, if they're for sure mid-year guys. Henderson has got a outside chance, but then your O-line, you don't want to play any of those guys, and really your D-line. And so some of those guys like that.
You mentioned still trying to get a couple guys from this cycle and then the spring cycle. Any positions in particular you're looking at trying to shore up there?
As far as high school guys, yeah, I think there's still an offensive lineman out there that we'd really try to get. And you're like, man, that's 6 offensive linemen. It's still, I think what's also going to happen when I say that is you're going to look up and there's going to be somebody there's going to be a young offensive lineman possibly in the portal. And so that I look at, that's almost plugging that spot in, because I already have spots set aside for transfers, so still want a certain number in that room. In every room, you have a number that you're trying to get. So that'd be the only spot in this as far as the high school guys.
And I know you probably don't want to give too much a peek behind the curtain, but with obviously NIL's been a thing now, but we're coming into the revenue sharing. There's been some reports, some schools that putting term sheets in front of guys of this is what your cap hit would kind of be. What does recruiting look like for you from this high school perspective, and what's it going to kind of look like once that portal opens on Monday?
It's going to look a lot like that. I mean, these guys that we signed today know where they fit. We're treating it just like a salary cap, right? And so they know where they fit in the cap. I've had some discussions with our current guys, that we feel like this is where you're going to be. Our current guys, I've also told them, hey, make sure you're having a great spring, doing everything you're supposed to be doing and everything like that. And then the portal guys, we're going to have those discussions. It's going to be interesting because those true contracts will get closer and closer that they can sign, but the revenue sharing doesn't kick in until July 1st. And then what they're going to look like. Because the other thing you're going to be able to do, it sounds crazy, but you're going to be able to sign multi-year contracts. And in those contracts, there's going to be a buyout. So if you're the University of X and I'm the University of Y and you're going to leave, or he's the guy that we're talking about and he plays for me and he leaves, you're going to have to pay me the rest of his contract, just like they would have to do it in my contract or anything else. So welcome to college football. It is now, I would not say a minor league, but it is a league of what the NFL and the UFL is. And so we're ready. We've been working on this model for well over a year, and we feel like we're in a really good spot.
All right, I'll do it.
All right. Thank y'all. Good to see y'all.